Another week in the Big Ten, another Big Ten upset. Doesn't appear as though there's going to be a second one in Happy Valley, but still with 3.5 minutes left to play in a two-score game, it's still possible with Penn State having the ball at the Ohio State at their own 20-yard line after the touchback on the punt that was botched by the Ohio State special teams after a perfect punt by the Buckeyes. We also have an important outcome transpiring in Charlottesville, Virginia, with the Cavaliers as a 7 to 8 point underdog as the Buckeyes look to get close to a pick six on the interception, and that should do it from right there. Don't know who got the pick there, couldn't see it, but the Buckeyes should wrap it up with the interception up by 13 with 3.5 minutes left to play. Again, as I was noting, North Carolina's ACC championship hopes probably going down in flames tonight in Charlottesville against a Virginia team that I don't know where their offense comes from, but they got 41 points on the board, 44 points on the board, something like that. 44-34, I believe, is the score with Virginia leading North Carolina tonight. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Great to see everyone in the live chat. We'll get the mouth working here soon. It's great to see everyone in the live chat tonight. And, of course, our number is 860-325-3687. Want to remind everyone before we get cranked up talking nothing but college football that you need to shop Amazon using the link in the description section below. That is paramount. I heard somewhere that I forget what the stat was on Amazon. It was something amazing. The monopoly that they have on shopping in this country is ridiculous. So if you use the link, please, for whomever shops in your household, please get them the link to shop Amazon. All right. Penn State's going to fall to 0-2, apparently, unless something ridiculous happens here at Ohio State looking the part, for the most part, tonight. Not a just butt kicking, but we have to remember that Penn State, despite the result against Indiana, is still fielding a roster of top 10 talent, missing their best defensive player who's opted out and is going to the NFL draft, of course. And one of their top linebackers, Jesse Luketa, missed the first half because of targeting against Indiana. Journey Brown out, of course, probably for the entire season. And his backup, Noah Cain, who was a top-flight running back coming out of high school and had a productive year last year. So Penn State, as I mentioned a number of times since last week's game against Indiana, and even before they played the Hoosiers, probably a more different team than any team in the country in games 1 and 2 versus the personnel and the team that we expected it to be in the offseason. So that's not an excuse for James Franklin, but bad things have happened to Penn State. Jahan Dotson did show up and probably exposed Ohio State's biggest weakness right now, and that's coverage in the secondary. If they don't get a real pass rush on the quarterback, they've had issues covering in this game. Not necessarily against Nebraska. Nebraska didn't move the ball downfield. They completed a lot of passes, but everything was underneath and did not extend the field. But Sean Clifford and Jahan Dotson in particular have extended the field and stretched the field, and Sevyn Banks is lost in coverage in particular. But the Buckeyes will win and advance. And, of course, we'll look at next week's schedule as well, highlighted by Clemson at Notre Dame, a game we dissected, of course, the Clemson struggle against Boston College earlier in the day. We'll take your calls, of course. Also go through the live chat, see what's on your mind. We also have a result where Texas A&M marches on to another big win. A&M lurking in the back half of the top 10. Look out for Texas A&M. Georgia, Penn State seem to be at the top of the list before any games were played as teams that could possibly not win the conference but compete for a college football playoff spot. I offered up Texas A&M as being maybe that team looking at the back half of their schedule, and a schedule that's not quite as daunting as it typically is. We've got Mike here in the chat. Wade needs to move back inside. He is lazy in coverage. Okay. Can't say that I noticed that in particular, but we'll take note of that, and maybe I'll get a chance to. Who am I kidding? I'm not going to have a chance to rewatch this game. I would love to have that kind of time, but building a business and need to watch other games as well. I want to catch up with that Arkansas Texas A&M game and Florida and Missouri as well. Bo Weevil, good to see you tonight. Sean Wade. Bucknut66 backing up on Mike's comment. Maybe I'm watching too many games. I didn't really lock in on Sean Wade as much as I did Seven Banks. Sure, I saw him get beat for some pass plays, like all cornerbacks will. Oh my goodness, Justin Fields is good. The Buckeyes outgained Penn State on the ground 218-50. I believe that was the number I saw. So they, much more than 38-25, they were the better team tonight. But they beat a top 10 to 15 team in the country about as well as you can. There's nothing wrong with this win tonight, except giving up some pass plays. And everybody gives up pass plays. Everybody gives up pass plays. Iowa got blown out today. Navy has extended our definition of a blowout to 1 point. Navy, what's a close game? Do we have any close game definitions? Iowa lost by 1 point. Who just kicked a field goal? I think the Buckeyes missed a second one. They've missed 2 field goals. So if this becomes a backdoor cover, some people are going to be awfully upset. In the Ohio State place kicking tonight. They've missed 2 very makeable field goals. And, of course, it's 38-25, and Penn State will be able to give it a shot here. They've got about 80 yards to go to score with 1:13, and it's all window dressing at this point. Bucknut66, watching this Buckeye defense reminds me of when Greg Schiano was there. D-line and linebackers are playing well. DBs are on an island and cannot hang. I would have added the linebackers more so as a sore spot under Greg Schiano, and the secondary was fine. I would have switched that around. Basically, the linebackers were awful at tackling people in space, for one thing, and then over-pursuing and being a bit slow-footed. John says, yeah, pretty shocking that Clifford was able to average over 18 yards a pop. Again, we're picking apart maybe the best team in the country. So they're playing a very talented team, and they're on the road, and it's I don't want to call it an easy win, but this was never a nervous situation. Never. It wasn't like this was a 3-point game entering the fourth quarter, then they tacked down a couple touchdowns and created space, like you see in many of these kind of games where like a top 3 team plays a top 15 team. And based on watching Penn State tonight, I don't care about their record. They're not going to be ranked in my rankings because of the way I approach it, but I still think they're a top 15 team in the country. Mickey, we have been spoiled by having NFL caliber defensive backs. Let this unit gel and grow. Thank you, Mickey B, the voice of reason. Thank you so much. Bucknut66, the Bucks give them a field goal at the end of the first half. Good thing this isn't a close game. Either the Bucks did or the officials did. I didn't really grind down to watch, and I know Ryan Day was going nuts on the sideline, and I had a few text messages from friends who were annoyed by that. I didn't really give it a good look in terms of whether that was an Ohio State mistake or an officiating error. We've got a sack there from Tommy Togiai, and this one's in the books. Let's get over to the North Carolina-Virginia game. I want to see how this one winds up. Oh, my goodness. So you probably got it that my remote's a piece of garbage. Actually, I switched to the wrong network. I went to the SEC instead of the ACC. Florida's up 27-7, or those are probably highlights. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. My apologies. Keep in mind that the lines are open, 860-325-3687. Bucks have a lot of growing to do in a short time. I don't know that they've got a lot of growing to do. I don't really know that. Ballard, how's it going? We see Clemson struggle today. We've seen Alabama struggle against Ole Miss. They're the standard. Those are the teams at Ohio State. And I'm not belittling the Big Ten or saying that it's a cakewalk or Ohio State's home free and they're going to win all their games. I did predict them to go 9-0. And I believe they still just beat the second best team in the league. Unless Wisconsin's able to come back and show us something. The offense is putting me to sleep. Man, the standards here are ridiculous. That offensive performance tonight was stellar. Stellar. Hey, Murder Blaze, good to see you. We've got Snake Spence in the chat, as well as Bryce Ferguson. Let's see. Ballard Sports Media. Alabama's defense came to play tonight. Also, happy Halloween. Yes, happy Halloween for anyone who cares out there. That's certainly a holiday. I wouldn't consider it a holiday that I have long since forgotten about and could care less about. But hey, when I was 10, I loved it. Captain Trips, go Gators. Yes, this was a game that a number of people pegged as some type of an upset, and I did too, mistakenly. My approach to predicting the games has been way off the last 2 weeks. Been trying too hard looking for upsets, and I didn't pin them. Didn't pin them down these last 2 weeks. We've had a rough 2 weeks, and this has to be the latest in a college football season that I've been under 500 picking the games against the spread. But, hey, you're going to have that, especially when you take like 30 seconds to pick the games. I would love to, at some point in my life, be able to actually build a system because I've got many ideas on trends and tracking to build a system to predict games accurately. But, you know, that's something I don't have time for. SEC Dog, Mark Rogers, our season is over. Georgia. Huh? Huh? I think you gave up 3 points today. 3 points? Your season's over. You've lost one game to maybe the best team. You get to see them again. Come on, SEC Dog. Pick it up. Pick it up. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Your season's not over. I know your offense isn't what you want it to be. The season's not over. The roster's too talented, and you've got Florida coming up. That should be a heck of a game. That should be a heck of a game. And unfortunately, I've got this SEC network on and not the end of the North Carolina-Virginia game. Although that might be over as well. Lord says, eye test, Ohio State resume, Bama, Clemson, a distant 3. Oh, okay, eye test, Ohio State resume, Bama, Clemson, a distant 3rd. And that's the reason why Alabama is number 1 in my rankings. And we'll see where the Buckeyes go after tonight's performance and based on what else happened in college football. Eli, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 were stupid to delay the season so long. Why even play a season at this point? Well, I agree with the first portion of that statement. I've stated that many times, that the Big Ten, ironically, was the league that initially built a revised schedule with flexibility and pockets in it to be able to adapt to COVID issues. And then they become the league that gets on the field second to last and has to play all the way through. So I agree with the first point, but why even play a season? Well, they're playing a season because they're still able to compete for a championship. Tom's telling us Kirk Ferentz finds the plane out of Iowa now. Okay, he's been there for 20 years. I don't think 0-2 is going to kick him out of town. Bucknut66, where's the offensive line? I thought the offensive line played well tonight against a fine defensive front. They had to have generated 500 yards of total offense. And we don't even know what Ohio State is capable of if they're really pushed. They weren't pushed in this game. It went 7-zip, 14-zip, and even the most worrisome Ohio State fan had to be feeling good throughout this entire game. There had to be no stress level. I know that it got to 21-13. Got Michael Hogue. You are a mod, Michael. I think I may have explained to you that the only way I figured out there's 2 ways that I have figured out to make somebody a mod. One is that I take a comment that you make to one of the videos, and I got a drop down. They provide a drop down for me, and I hit the drop down, and it gives me an option to make you a mod. That's one way. That's the way I've done it for everybody else. Or I can go into a settings, and as long as I can find your handle, like if I type in Michael Hogue and it populates the handle, then I can click on it. But that generally doesn't work because there's like 8 million Michaels in the Google database. So yeah, absolutely. Anybody who I recognize as being in good standing, having watched me for a period of time and contributes and is loyal and a good viewer and interacts and all those good things, like yourself and Cheryl and Lord and Melissa May and Trevor and Lord, an NBA fan, and I might be missing somebody, are mods. All I have to be able to do is do one of those 2 things. Eli is telling us that Cincinnati should be ranked number 4. I had Cincinnati at number 7, I believe, before this week. Number 7 or number 5. I can't remember. I know that I had Oklahoma State. I think I had Oklahoma State at 5, Cincinnati at 6. I can't, I got to look at the resumes, but I believe I'll have Alabama, Clemson. I might have Cincinnati up there at number 4 after Notre Dame. Could be. Eli, George is overrated. Their offense sucks. Yeah. I think Georgia is probably one of the 4 best teams in the country. Mark, I asked you this question earlier, and how huge is that game going to be for not only our Purdue and Wisconsin, along with Indiana and Michigan? So I haven't looked at next week's games. Are we talking about, I know Indiana and Michigan play, so you're telling me Purdue and Wisconsin play. Sure. Purdue's 2-0. Wisconsin's 1-0. It's a big game in the Big Ten West. Indiana at 2-0, trying to beat Michigan for the first time in forever. And Michigan just trying to the situation at Michigan is dire. I was impressed with Michigan State. I don't think they're awful, as we did a week ago, but Michigan cannot lose to Michigan State. Michigan State is a top 50 team probably in the country. Mel Tucker, man, that is a big win for him. And now he can go into recruits' homes already after one win. That was a big win. Usually if you're at Michigan State and you're playing a typical schedule, your first win's against Western Michigan. But his first win is against Michigan. And he can go into recruits' homes and say, look at what we're doing. Look at what Michigan's been. They're not going anywhere. They're staying the same, or they might be regressing, but look at us. Sure, we stumbled against Rutgers in the first game, but we're building our system. We got things going. There's a little juice now with Michigan State. We'll see how they continue on this path. I was impressed with Rocky Lombardi because, as I stated after the noon window, when I learned, and that announcement didn't come until just a couple days before the Rutgers game. I don't even know that it came down. I think we found out when they stepped on the field against Rutgers, who they had named as starting quarterback. They had a three-way quarterback battle. And when I saw that it was Rocky Lombardi, I thought, okay, that's not a good sign, because the other two quarterbacks must not be any good, because Lombardi has not been good. 43%. Just not good. His numbers are awful. He's been awful, but he has improved considerably. Is he great? No. He's capable. Yep. Huge games. Purdue, Wisconsin. Big Ten Western Division lead on the line. George, we always appreciate you letting us know that you're here, and then you're going to, I wouldn't even want to guess what you're going to do, and then letting us know that you'll be back. Appreciate the contribution from whomever that is. I will get to that in just a second. Thank you so much. It's a great reminder to everyone that this is what we're doing full-time, full throttle, all the time. The ESPN job is behind me, done. I've left after 19 years. And we are, the only way to pursue this was to cut ties and go full throttle and start at ground zero. So that's what we're doing here. So I appreciate any contribution. If you believe in what we're doing. Even if you don't agree with me. Even if you say, Mark, I don't like your top 25. I don't like this. I don't believe in that. But you love what we deliver here, which is my voice, the voice of college football. It's my opinion. It's the opinion of all the people I bring on here. Look at all the great guests that I bring on a regular basis. All their voices, their opinion, and then all of you. I read off all your live chat contributions and your comments and questions and debate topics and so forth. So, man, this is voice of college football. All of us have a voice. So if you like that theme, then certainly back me up. I know from the comments I get to the videos that not everybody agrees with me, and that's great. All right. Lord says it ain't eye test, it ain't schedule, it ain't best wins. Eli says Georgia would be better than last year's LSU team if they had Justin Fields. They might be. I can't debate that. I can't confirm it, but I can't debate it. Another super chat contribution. Thank you so much from somebody. I will get those posted to the screen as soon as I get to them. Michael says, I'm trying to figure out where you get that from, considering, yes, Bama's defense pitched a shutout. Okay, you guys are in a debate there. Iowa was blown out in the second half. Yeah, Iowa had a 17-0 lead, lost to Northwestern 21-20. The Wildcats are 2-0. So for video content, you guys let me know what you think. I am going to release my top 25 that actually makes sense. I am going to, most likely, as I scan the country, going to give you a stock market watch, meaning who's on the rise, who's in decline. And I'm going to give you my Heisman list, I guess, if I think that anything's really changed or been confirmed. Nobody really watched the Heisman top 5 that I put together last weekend, so I'll probably bypass that. But now that we've played 3, 4, 5, 6 conference games, something in that range, depending on the conference, I think I'll give us everyone a look at each conference and where we stand. Most interesting here is the ACC, of course, and the Big 12. The SEC, Alabama against the winner of Georgia, Florida. It's pretty much cut and dry. Ohio State is clearly looking like the class of the Big Ten as we expected, although there's much to be decided there. They just started last week. The ACC, Clemson, Notre Dame is going to tell us so much. And I want to see this tiebreaker play out. I would like to see Notre Dame actually beat Clemson just to make it more interesting because everybody perceives Clemson as the best and the ACC team to beat. It would be interesting to see it get jumbled up a little bit. Georgia's looking for predictions on the Florida-Georgia game. Let me catch up with NBA fan. Mod me. Again, so here's the situation. If you leave a comment to one of the videos, I get a drop down and I can make you a mod. Although with some of you, I didn't get a drop down. So I don't know what that's all about. So I'm doing my best. But we got NBA fan, we got Michael, and we got Cheryl and Melissa May and Lord and Trevor have all asked to be mods. And I believe that they all are, or I've tried to make them mods. So NBA fan, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Appreciate that. We also have Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Just search MarkRogersTV. You can go to any one of those. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. Check out Amazon as well, of course. I know the percentages say, the odds say that tons of you shop on Amazon. I just know it. It's just like having 100 people in a room and saying somebody's got a birthday within 2 weeks of November 17th. And of course somebody does because the odds just say it. So please shop on Amazon and use the link that we provide in the description section of the videos. And I should be ready to put these in the live chat, and I will have my mods actually do that in the future. 187 online. Let me know what you want to talk about concerning college football. We've got North Carolina going down. So it's going to be tough for them to compete for the ACC championship now with Miami with 1 loss. And, of course, Notre Dame and Clemson are undefeated. It seems to be between those 3 teams now, most likely, unless North Carolina can beat Notre Dame head-to-head and work their way back in. We've got Ohio State, of course, winning over Penn State. They look to be the class of the Big Ten as we have expected. Northwestern's 2-0 now. Purdue's 2-0. Indiana is 2-0. So a lot of people expected a letdown from the Hoosiers after they had the miraculous win against Penn State. But they handled Rutgers. They didn't blow them out, but they handled them 38-21. LSU got torched today by Auburn. I've got that game on my DVR. I've yet to watch it. I know that Auburn had a quick pick 6 or close to a pick 6 down to the goal line to get themselves on the board when it was 0-0 in the first quarter. And then they just ran away after that. So Auburn, after some shaky wins, controversial wins, officiated, impacted wins against Ole Miss and Arkansas, really get their most convincing win of the season by far. So they're 4-2. Texas A&M with a big win against Arkansas. A lot of people liked that as an upset tonight, but the Aggies win. Last score I saw was 42-24. And then, of course, Florida wins over Missouri. That score was somewhere around 41-10. I don't see a final full score, but I will get to those. So NBA fan, thank you so much. And somebody else had given me the super chat. Here we go. Beard God Kel. Man, Dotson had a hell of a game. Jahan Dotson, he means the Penn State wide receiver. Hashtag Live Squad, hit that like button. I can't explain it. I don't know what the deal is with the like button, but people, please just hit the like button. That's all I hear from YouTubers is get people to hit the like button. A video that's got 10,000 views that has 100 likes doesn't even come close in YouTube's evaluation of it. than a video with 10,000 views and 3,000 likes for whatever reason. So please do that. Yeah, Cheryl, look at all the critics of Ohio State's play tonight. I was actually going to buy myself candy tonight, but chocolate chip cookies and ice cream, I guess, was enough. I keep telling myself after every weekend, man, I'm going to go vegan. I'm going to go hardcore. I'm going to be feeling good, which I do feel good. But, yeah, it's tough for me to kick the habit right there, the sweet tooth. Chris Bradford, I think Michigan State got up for the rivalry. I'm not too confident in them. I'm confident that they're going to be competitive this year. That's what I'm confident in. I saw enough today I saw enough that they can pass protect for a long time against a really good Michigan defensive front to give Rocky Lombardi time to get those receivers downfield. When Michigan State hit on pass plays today, they were big chunk plays over and over and over and over and over. And this freshman, Ricky White, second game, pretty unheralded, only caught one ball in his debut against Rutgers, 8 catches, $196 today. So excuse me if I miss any big comments in here. I'm trying to find, let me work from the back here. Michigan might have the worst corners in the Big Ten. I just can't believe that, Dijon, but you know what? It looked like it today because they either held, and I thought the calls were fair. They were a bit strict, the officiating in the Michigan State game, but it was fair. They were holding and they were interfering consistently, and when they weren't, they were getting burned. Number 4 and number 22. Can't remember their names off. Perry and I've got them in my notes. Who is my group of 5 favorite for the New Year's 6? John Van Hoff. Cincinnati. I know Boise State still has a lot of football, and they looked impressive in the second half against Air Force this week. They were down early, and then they blew them away in the second half. But look at Cincinnati's resume. They just beat SMU by 4 touchdowns last week, and they took care of Memphis by 49-10. That Cincinnati team, I wish we would have seen non-conference games this year. It would have been so good to see non-conference play. The 1984 National Championship, Adams Apple was 13-0 BYU. They beat Michigan 24-17 in the Holiday Bowl. Get this. A national championship team played a 6-5 team in a bowl game. That's how screwed up college football was then. For as much as I make fun of it now, and as how bad the system is now, it was even worse then. But in a lot of ways, it was more fun. Curveball. Don't make me a mod. I'll time out everyone until you put the Miami helmet on display. Note to self. Do not make Curveball a mod. Got it. I don't even know how many mods I should have. I guess I shouldn't give this away to like 5,000 different people. Judge Juno, I forgot to mention him. Judge Juno's a mod. George, good to see you. How about them Gators beat Missouri by double the line? Tried to tell you not to be disrespectful to the Gators. Who are you talking to? Being disrespectful. Being disrespectful. Me? I'm not disrespecting anyone. I love the sensitivity of the fan bases out there. I just think it's hilarious. The sensitivity of the fan base. You pick somebody to go 8-2 and they're supposed to be 10-0, or you pick them to lose a game. It's funny. All right. George, Luke, Mark. Are you citing the Gospels here? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Luke, Mark. As a rule, if anybody asks to be a moderator, they can't be a moderator, so hope he doesn't see that comment. Derek asking when the next call-in show is. We can call in tonight, 860-325-3687. Let me put it up there. We are taking calls tonight. That's why I don't have my mic on. When I don't have the mic on, that means I'm taking calls. So we're taking calls. If I actually get my phone, that might be key. I switched phones this week, bought myself a new phone. I had to. Lost the company phone. Had to send that back, of course. So I believe somebody was calling, unless that was some kind of personal call. No, somebody was calling in, so call on back. Yes, it's a call-in show, Derek. Give us a call. Hopefully this is Derek, since he was asking. And I will get the call-in number here. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Yes, who's on the line?
Hello, it's George.
George! What's up?
I never know if you can hear me or if I'm coming through loud and clear. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I got you perfectly.
Oh, wait. Okay, there, that's better. I had to touch my phone. Okay. I'm just sitting here with a big shit-eating grin on my face, man. I'm so happy.
Now, see, as soon as you use a 4-letter word, George, you know what goes through my mind? This is what goes through my mind. I wonder if, when we get done with this live stream, if I'm going to get off, and as soon as I look at the video on, so I've got a list of my videos, and it shows me all these little numbers and things, that it's going to have this little warning sign next to it, and it's going to say, your revenue has been limited on this video because of violating the such and such and such and such. That's what it's going to say.
I
Guarantee it.
Myself. I said SHIT, and I went, don't get this money. Don't get this video demonetized, George. Right away, just saying SHIT. So I think I'm okay now.
To be honest, I don't know if that's what does it, but something does it. It's either the comments in the live chat or it's the call-in. Anyway, go to it, George. You got to be happy tonight. The Gators won big.
Oh, my God. First, I want to say, I want to memorialize Jim Harbaugh. He was a good man. He was a great coach. He was, you know, for all we know, maybe there's something wrong with the guy. I just can't believe it. I'm sorry. I feel so bad for Michigan fans. God bless Iowa, Northwestern, all those other teams that fill up the college football schedule, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Texas. Thank them for participating too. How about Georgia? They look pretty peaceful, don't they?
They've got a great defense.
Not really. It's not that good.
Georgia beat Kentucky by 11 points. This is what I find funny about most football fans, is that they're impressed with offense. They're not impressed with defense. So your defense can be bad, or another team's defense can be bad. And if Georgia, let's say, won that game by 11 points, but it was 35-24, they'd be okay with that. They'd be like, yeah, Georgia won today. They're continuing to roll. It looks like they're going to make it back to the SEC championship game. But because it was 14-3, they disregard the defensive performance.
I agree with you on that level, except you can't hold everybody to 14. That could be a problem, or 3.
Well, sure.
Like, you think they're going to hold Florida to 14?
No, I don't believe they're going to hold Florida to 14.
Or 3? Or 7? But whatever, they can't score more than 14. We know that already. That's written in stone.
But what about the Florida defense that had been shredded by all sorts of teams? You don't think that the
defense looked like the Florida defense looked better than Chicago's defense tonight? We are beastly,
That's
and we were playing all 4 stringers. It was incredible. You know, what you said is true. People don't pay attention to defense, but I do. That's why I love being a Gator. I love watching the defensive plays as much as I love watching the offensive plays. And that's not true with all football teams. Like Oklahoma, you don't get off watching their defense. But our defense was back tonight, back to normal. Using third and fourth string players. I think we're good for the future. And I think Georgia is depressed because they see what's happened. And if they come out next week against us with a new quarterback, first time starting, we've already done this before. I can't even remember the guy's name. It was the funniest thing I ever saw. They trotted out a new quarterback against us first game. Like, yeah, do that.
Georgia did.
Throw J.T. Daniels out there.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you're pretty confident your Gators are going to do it this year.
Hey, well, I'm not confident. This is what I called to say. The line is off on Florida, Georgia with me. There's no betting line. Nobody touched that game. Even if it was a 1-point spread, I would have to think about it because you know how football is, man. It's too sensitive a game. People are too involved in it. Everybody needs to go look at who BYU is playing or Northwestern or Iowa or find a safer game. Don't bet on Florida, Georgia. Because I'm afraid of the spread. I think everyone thinks Florida is going to roll over them by 50 or something. And what if it's a 1-point game? And you just can't risk your money on that. Because they do have that good defense and those 35 stars, blah, blah, blah.
Did you actually watch the Florida game?
Every second of it.
Okay.
When I hang up, I'm going to go watch it.
Because I'm going to ask you a question, George, because Roberto here in the live chat is asking for us to talk about the fight at halftime. I didn't see the game. I saw during halftime that there was some kind of fight that I didn't.
This is the best shit. Mark, I'm not even looking at my phone, but this is the best shit you've ever seen. The last play.
What did I say when we first got on the phone?
Oh, yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I meant cow food. The last play of the first half, apparently, the Missouri player just came in and busted Kyle Trask, got the side head like 1 minute after he had thrown the ball. The ball was like already at the other end of the field and put him on his back. And Dan Mullen, the game's over. It's halftime, you know. Dan Mullen comes running full speed out, screaming at the referees because there's no flag. And then both teams getting their real, it looked like a real fist fight to me. It was almost like a fight where when that guy took the Pittsburgh quarterback's helmet off and hit him in the helmet with a kind of fight for a minute. And then they suspended 3 players. 2 of them are our top players. And we're not going to have them for the first half of Georgia next week, but that's okay. We'll be fine. Don't worry about that.
Wait a minute. You're losing 3 of your best players for the first half in the game?
No. Missouri is missing 1 player, and we're missing 2 in our next game. And we both play Georgia next. Missouri's off next week. They play Georgia the week after that. There are players missing for Georgia. We play Georgia next week, and we're missing 2 players for the first half. One of them is Zachary Carter, and the other one's Antoine Power or something. I forget who the second guy is. But they're both defensive. No, they're both offensive players. No. One's a defensive player, one's offensive. Anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter. We got plenty of players, man. It's no problem.
Okay.
The moral of the story is don't do that to our quarterback. And now the SEC home office has to look into it. They're going to assess penalties and fines. You know what they should do? They should just say, we'll call it even, let it go, instead of all the drama. It's bad enough people getting a Rona. I think Jim Harbaugh might have the Rona.
All right, George, I'm going to take these other calls. I appreciate you calling in. Thanks, man.
Love you guys.
I need to get to the bottom of these suspensions at Florida. I see what happened here. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, it's Derek. How you doing, Mark?
Derek. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. Talk about the Buckeyes and Big Ten.
Yep.
State. You know, they're looking good. I feel like, Michigan State lost to Michigan. I got a bunch of Michigan fans. I live literally on the border. I'm Toledo. I'm right here.
All right.
So I went to Michigan for high school, and I live in Ohio, so I'm right on the border. I had a couple buddies tonight. They were hurt, they're Michigan fans, and even this is kind of what I was telling them. I said, I was watching Ohio State play tonight, and I felt comfortable the whole game. Yeah, my prediction was 45-24. So I wasn't too far off. Last week I got one person who can vouch for me. Who we got 160 people listening. Nobody's gonna believe me, but I literally predicted 52-17 Buckeyes. I got lucky. So many things had to be perfect for that to happen. Nebraska had a wide open guy in the end zone, went right through his hands, so they had to take a field goal. Like, so many things had to happen for that to be right. Ryan Day apologized in 18 seconds for Jack Miller scoring at the last second just to make it 52. Like, it was everything had to be perfect. It was crazy. That shit never happens. But anyway, talking about this week's games, watching Ohio State and Penn State, I felt comfortable. The whole game. We jumped on them early and just kept it going. Momentum. And Michigan, they were down. It was a dogfight. It was actually ugly. Watching that first half, I was like, man, this is ugly. But, Michigan State pulled it out. And even if Michigan would have won, let's say, Michigan won, because there was a chance. If they would have won, I feel like Michigan would still, they went through 3.5 hours of feeling like crap. They're like, they're just, that whole game was just worry. It was just anxiety. It was just, compared to Ohio State tonight, it was just another day in the park, another day at the office. So, I don't know. That's just my recap. I just want to get my voice out there. But, I don't know. What do you feel about it?
What do I think? I think Ohio State's got a great team, as expected. When I say great team, they've got great talent. I don't know that they've got a great team. I don't know that there's a great team out there. Really, the only issue I had with the performance was I thought that their secondary was lost, and I think their coverage is a bit soft. But besides that, I think that they were playing a top 10 talented team and more like a top 20 team in regards to what their performance is going to be that I expect out of Penn State this year. So winning comfortably, I don't think that can be criticized much. So that's my thought. All right, Derek, I'm going to take this other call. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate it. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Voice of college football, Mark Rogers. How you doing this evening, sir?
Hey, David. How are you?
Excellent. I see some of the folks in the live chat. Maybe I'm a little bit more optimistic or a little bit more pleased with this performance than some of the other folks out there. But, I thought overall, the Buckeyes did what they had to do. I thought the offensive line looked good. We were able to run the ball when we needed to. Obviously, Justin Fields is really good. Our receivers continue to make plays. And I thought the defensive line and linebackers played a much better game this week. So I think there's a lot of good here, Mark. What's your overall evaluation, and do you agree with me?
Well, I'll just reiterate what I told the last caller. The only concern that I had was that I thought the secondary was a bit lost. Other than that, obviously, there are plays made by the other team. I think that people lose this sight of that there are athletes on the other side, and many of them will be playing in the NFL. So
right.
it's the other team's going to make plays, and especially when you're playing one of the 10 to 15 best rosters in the country. So I wasn't that concerned with anything other than think the coverage is a bit loose. I don't know why Sevyn Banks in particular, I saw this a few times, why he's playing 8 and 10 yards off a receiver when the ball's at like the 18-yard line. Like when I think it was even closer to the goal line than that. He's basically got his heels on the goal line. You know, he's not going to get beat to the, if he's going to get beat to the corner, then they're going to have to throw a perfect pass. So why are you giving up an 8 or 9 yard pass play in front of you when you're standing on the goal line practically? I don't understand that.
Well, sure. If you look at that first drive, that they had to make it 21-13 to start the second half, they were getting a lot of underneath stuff because Ohio State was playing off. They weren't playing press man in those situations. They were playing off coverage, giving us 6-7 yards cushion. And, you know, that allows Clifford to just say, hey, I get the ball out here quick, take these short gains. And they did that all the way down the field to get that touchdown and make it 21-13. I will say this. First of all, I didn't think Clifford looked all that bad, by the way. I know you said some of his inconsistencies. I don't think he's got a whole lot of help around him. Although I think they may have found something with that Dodson on the outside, by the way. He made a couple of really nice catches. I know some of the people have said, and I know Sean Wade got beat a couple of times, but 2 of the catches were where Sean Wade was right there in coverage. So it wasn't as if, you know, the coverage was bad on a couple of those catches. And now a few of the other ones, the coverage could have been a little bit better. But he made a couple nice catches. And finally, it looked like they had a legitimate wide receiver there. Because, you know, as I told you earlier in the week, I was not necessarily impressed with their weapons.
Sure.
Did you notice that as well?
Yeah, well, I know that Jahan Dodson was a 5-star coming out of high school, and he has shown flashes. So I'm certainly not surprised that he made plays. They've had trouble at receiver the last several seasons since can't think of the one that transferred to Oklahoma, Geno and Deshaun Hamilton and those guys. And then the one that I'm missing names. The other one that transferred to Oregon. Oh my goodness, Jawan Johnson.
Oh, is it Johnson? Okay.
But yeah, there's my summary of the game, pretty much.
I would have also found it interesting. I mean, if they would have had those 2 other running backs, you know, the Jordy Brown and Noah team, I thought that would have also made things interesting. If their roster was fully healthy, it would have been interesting to see that game as well. But, I mean, I still think Ohio State's a better football team. And, you know, I kind of feel the same way that I did a year ago. I think the Buckeyes are at least 2 scores better than everybody else in the Big Ten, if not more. You know, 2 or more scores better than anybody else in this conference.
Sure.
And I don't see that changing going forward. I tell you what, it would have been interesting. I think the team that would have been interesting to watch, because I did like Graham Mertz, would have been Wisconsin going forward before this whole situation hit. They would have been an interesting team to watch, don't you think, Mark?
Well, sure. They're always interesting to watch. They're always somebody to be reckoned with.
Well, I was just saying that too because it looked like Mertz might be the first really good quarterback that they've had since, you know, because like I said, they really haven't had a big name quarterback since Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So it's been a bunch of kind of game manager quarterbacks, you know, over the last few years. So I think that Mertz could have given them some quarterback play that they hadn't seen in going on 9 years since they had Russell Wilson. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, you can look at it that way. You can also look at it that their running game doesn't look to be anything close to what it typically is.
True, but it's a quarterback-driven sport, though, right now, Mark.
It is. It doesn't. It hasn't been for them, and they've been successful. But
true.
Yeah. So we will see if they can get back on the field.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The next couple of weeks will be interesting. Hey, a couple of thoughts on that Michigan State game, by the way. Yeah, those corners did not look good for Michigan. They were definitely exposed. And I didn't know that, you know, Michigan, if it was necessarily Rocky Lombardi and those Sparty receivers making plays. And I give them a lot of credit for making plays, but yeah, I don't see any Leon Halls back there. I certainly don't see any Charles Woodsons. I don't see any,
some of the corners that they've had in the past. I don't see any really top-notch cover corners back there. And when they need any team that can throw the ball, their defense is really going to be in trouble.
Yeah, their corners struggled, and not just the two corners, but their slot corners inside. Everybody struggled. Daxton Hill's a tremendous player, though. So they do have one proven excellent player. I wasn't tracking exactly everybody who was making mistakes, but it was number 4 and number 22, Jalen Perry, and I can't remember the other player's name, that were consistently either holding, interfering legitimately, or they were just getting burned. And the thing that I will say about Michigan State connecting on those long throws is they had to make decent plays on the ball and decent throws to connect. Like guys weren't completely wide open. Like they were throwing the ball proficiently downfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
I was impressed with Michigan State throwing the ball downfield.
Yeah, I didn't know if they necessarily. I didn't really know about Rocky McCarty or their receivers and their capabilities of doing that. I will say this. On the other side of the ball, and I put this in your chat earlier after the game, I don't think Milton's, receivers were doing them any favors in that game. There's some drops, and it just didn't seem like they were getting separation either. So, I know that that there was a feeling out there that their receivers could be as good or better than they were a year ago, but I didn't see it today. Did you?
Well, I saw it against Minnesota, is what I thought I saw. But then we saw Minnesota get torched the next week, so against Maryland, of all teams. So again, it's week by week. You get more information, and you see another game, and you can get high about Michigan one week, and considering that you think Minnesota's a pretty good team, and then you see Minnesota lose to Maryland, and so that adjusts the thinking about Michigan. And then, of course, they go out and lose to Michigan State. It's just an accumulation of information and play on the field that needs to be evaluated. But, I had people contacting me saying, yeah, Michigan sucks and whatever. Yeah, whatever. If you think Michigan sucks, then everybody but 15 teams in the country suck. So everybody sucks except for the team that's going to win the national championship. Some people take that tone that everybody sucks. So...
Well, yeah, in the playoff era, I think everybody's saying unless you're, in that bunch or close to it, it doesn't really much matter anymore. That's why I think that the playoff system is kind of like, pretty much made it to where there's 4 teams that matter, and then that's pretty much it. Nobody really thinks that much of the other teams, and teams that might even be playing in good bowl games because of the playoff nowadays.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I'm not making an excuse for Michigan in saying that their play is acceptable, because it's not, because they're paying a coach top 3 money in the country. They're Michigan. They're supposed to be competing for championships, or maybe some younger people who are in the chat are probably like, they are? Yeah, they're supposed to be competing for championships. They haven't for 15 years. But so they're not getting the job done. They've leveled off to a comfortable 9-3. I guess it's comfortable, depending on whom you are. 9-3 type program, and I don't think most Michigan fans. I was looking at a number of Michigan articles before I came on just to get some perspective, and doesn't seem like people are very happy, and they shouldn't be.
Sure. Yeah. If you want 9-3, you can pay Brady Hope to get 9-3. You're not paying a coach the top 3 money in the country to get 9-3.
Yeah, well, I don't know that Brady Hope was quite getting them there, but...
Well, yeah, I mean, you understand the point.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, right.
He did one time.
Hey, by the way.
Yep.
Hey, Mark, I must say, though, kind of what Georgia said, watching that Georgia offense, it is pretty primitive, don't you think?
Yeah. So when people say primitive, I often question like I hear people complain about play calling. So for people that complain about play calling, like this team's predictable, they don't know how to call plays, they don't know how to call plays. I would love to, well, actually, I'd be annoyed by watching a football game with those people, but for an experiment, I would love to sit and watch a football game with those individuals and say, okay, I want you, since they're so predictable, before every play, I want you to tell me what they're going to run. You're going to be able to tell me before every play what they're going to run if they are so predictable. And and obviously, if the plays work, then people are geniuses, and if they don't work, they're not geniuses. I watch a lot of football, and I rarely criticize play calling. And I'm not saying I never do, because I think sometimes it's more obvious than other times. But watching Georgia, are we commenting when we say that they have a prehistoric offense because they run more than they throw? That everybody who throws is ahead of the game, and the teams that run the ball more are not? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I would say this, to answer that question, to answer your question, I still think you need balance in football. No doubt about it. I mean, I think you have to still be able to run the football. Don't get me wrong. And that was, for being an Ohio State fan, that was the best part of last year's offense, is we had Justin Fields playing at a high level, and we had a 2,000-yard rusher in the backfield. So we were able to have the best of both worlds last year, offensively. And, some of the better Buckeye offenses I've seen have been able to run it and throw it. And, not having a running game a couple of years ago in 2018 when, Dwayne Haskins was having the greatest season maybe, Buckeye quarterback had ever had, hurt us in a lot of situations. Although I think the defense was the ultimate downfall of that football team. Still, you have to be able to run the ball, particularly in short yardage and goal line. But I would say, and we've talked about this before, where the game is at right now, as far as the skill players and the advantages that you have because of the rules and the quarterback play, points come through the passing game. They just do. And I think that Kirby Smart is thinking that I can win playing 2012, 2011, 2009 Alabama football. I think that's what he thinks. That we can do it basically with a great defense and a strong running game, which to a great degree was how Alabama won those years, right?
Sure.
And, their quarterbacks were A.J. McCarron and Greg McElroy. Although I think McCarron was better than McElroy, don't you think?
Yes. Well,
yeah,
the NFL didn't necessarily think that, but I guess they were roughly the same player in the league. I guess he was.
Yeah. Well, I think McCarron was a little bit better in college than McElroy was, is where I was going with that.
Sure, of course. I know you were talking college.
Right. I think he was more productive within those Alabama offenses as far as putting up some numbers than I think McElroy was. But nevertheless, they were kind of like supposed to be the quote-unquote, the term is used all the time to describe those quarterbacks at the time, game manager-type quarterbacks. And I'm sure you probably heard that statement made ad nauseum about quarterbacks, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that there's just a feeling that I think Kirby Smart may feel that he could win that way with a great defense, a strong running game, and a quarterback that just will take care of it, get a few different throws, and I can win that way. Maybe he just feels that way.
I guess he does. I don't know that he's recruited that way, though. He recruited Jake Fromm, who was drafted in the NFL. He recruited DeJuan Mathis, who was a 5-star. He recruited Carson Beck and signed him. He was a 5-star. I don't know that he recruited and signed Jacob Eason. I believe that was Mark Richt. He recruited and signed Justin Fields. He recruited and signed. He's of course allowed JT Daniels, a 5-star, to transfer in. I don't know. Either he believes that he owes Stetson Bennett something because he came in and played well the first 3 games, and that as long as they're winning, although they lost to Alabama, that he's not going to make a move. I don't know if this is just Stetson Bennett has the best grasp of the offense and JT Daniels is not ready, and that's because DeJuan Mathis started the first half of the first game and he was ill-prepared. So he marked him off, and this must be the safest play he can make. That's the only conclusion I can come to.
I hear you. I mean, but still, you're looking at Jake Fromm, who he eventually played, and now it's Stetson Bennett who he's playing. And these were just essentially these type of. I mean, Jake Fromm was maybe a high-end game manager, but that's basically what he was there to do. I mean, he wasn't there to, sit in the shotgun and swing the ball around 35 or 40 times a game. And that's the other thing about that offense. It's not an offense that schemes a quarterback up to sit in the shotgun and put 4 wide receivers out there and swing the ball around, 35 or 40 times. But that's the other thing. I don't think that he's designing an offense to a quarterback to play in that type of offense either. I mean, what you said.
Yeah, well, there's no question that as long as they're winning and they're leading games, that they're going to run the ball.
Right.
They usually don't have to pass the ball much.
Right. But the issue will be, and they saw this against Alabama, and they would see this against Clemson, and they would see this against Ohio State. Eventually, you're going to have to score north of 30 points. You just are. And if you're going to score north of 30 points, the way that's usually done is by putting the quarterback in the shotgun and letting him sling the ball around. Right?
Yeah, and if I recall, that's what they did against Alabama. It just wasn't effective because they didn't have the right quarterback back there. I don't know that they're adverse at throwing the ball. I don't know. Jake Fromm threw 30 touchdowns in a season. Were they not throwing the ball?
Yeah, I mean, they threw the ball pretty well. I mean, his numbers did go down last year. He had a good 18, but his numbers did go down a little bit to 17. But I get your point. I get your point.
All right, David. I appreciate it. I'm going to move on to this next call. Thank you so much.
All right, Mark. All right, good.
Press button to start the call or choose to the call will start at the beep.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, it's Derek. Hey, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
When's the next time you're talking to Steve Dace?
I talked to Steve Dace on Tuesday. We record on Tuesday.
So I was going to say, so I can expect a video Tuesday with you and him talking?
Yes.
You're going to let him know that I say, I feel for him, and, because I love watching his content too, and all that good stuff.
Am I going to let Steve know on our record that you feel for him? Well, Derek, I enjoy the phone calls and I appreciate you jumping on here, but I guarantee you I will not be telling Steve Dace that you are feeling for him. I don't think he really cares to hear that.
You don't have to do it on recording. I'm saying, you can just do it on the side or something. Say, hey, there's a guy. You don't have to publicize it. I don't care.
Okay.
Or don't mention it at all, but it is what it is, I guess.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Yes,
I know he's a Michigan fan. Or if you give him, or if you whip him a little bit, I'll know in spirit. I'll know it was for me too in spirit. You don't even got to mention it. But I just wanted to call. I was curious.
Yeah.
Talk to him next. And so.
Yeah, we record every
Mark.
Tuesday afternoon. All right, Derek. Thanks a lot.
Okay. That's fine. Appreciate it.
All right. Yes, I think Steve Dace actually on his channel, just like everybody else, has a comments section. So I don't believe I need to be passing on comments to anybody in particular. I think you can do that by yourself. Okay. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Maybe Thomas 8, buddy.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
I got the big one for you.
Okay.
Trying to engage this discussion on the chat on here.
Yeah.
November 7th, Notre Dame plays versus Clemson.
Yep.
Keep in mind, the Clemson quarterback, he's COVID-19, so he's out at least 21 days.
That's right.
He's not going November 7th.
No.
So I just wanted to get that typed in, and I didn't get any answer from it. So I said, all right, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call you.
Well, I appreciate that. We're well aware of it, Tom. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, Trevor Lawrence will not be playing in the game.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, Tom. Anything else? We always like to hear from you.
No, that's it.
All right, Tom. Tom letting us know Trevor Lawrence, the Clemson quarterback, will not be playing next week against Notre Dame. Actually, I shot a incident analysis after the BC Clemson game, and I got that posted. And as soon as I got it posted, of course, the news came down that he would not be playing because during that time, just after the final score hit, we didn't know. I was speculating that he would not be able to play. It just didn't make sense. It didn't add up. The days didn't add up, and the testing and so forth, and the protocols that would allow him to play. All right. Guys, have anything else for me tonight? All right. Okay. I'm going to run through the scores, and I will give you my observation of all these games and what I watched and what I didn't watch. Let's go through all the scores. And, you know, this format, doing the primetime call-in show after the primetime game, just so much different than it was last year because we had Pac-12 games on. Starting next week, I guess we'll be doing the Pac-12 games because I'd always be taking calls from you at like 2 o'clock in the morning thinking, I got to watch the end of these Pac-12 games. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Mark? How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, DeAndre. Do me a favor and turn the audio down, please.
I got you.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes, I could hear myself. And it's bad enough when everybody's going to hear me once. I don't think they want to hear me twice.
Oh, man. Well, what a great day it is, man. What a great day.
Yeah.
Clemson kind of gave it away, didn't it?
Clemson did what?
Try to give it away.
Tried to give it away. Well, I guess so. I think Boston College tried to give it away, too. They didn't play a flawless game, that's for sure. They committed some dumb penalties in some key moments in which they could have given themselves a better shot.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think when me, you, and Bobby and Pinsky and people were talking, that somewhere I said that I thought Clemson secondary was going to be an issue. Turner, I know that was Sweetie's in love with him because of his closeness to his father, but I know they recruited better athletes than him, but maybe he just understands the system. I don't know what's up with Kicker. Booth, who everybody's been talking about for the last 2 years, he's played really well because, you know, he came in as one of the top DBs, but it's amazing that Goodrich hasn't really got off. Sergio Jones seems like he does pretty good, but I just don't get that secondary. I mean, they cut down on Boston College in the second half, but I mean, I just don't get that secondary and their performance. And I keep trying to tell people Tyler Davis is one of the best defensive tackles in the country. He hasn't played. I don't know why he's. I don't know what kind of injury he got. Maybe he hurt his leg again, but he's going to have to improve on that coming up. Hopefully he gets healthy. I don't think there was much drop off with DJ Ukulele and Trevor Lawrence, to be honest with you.
I didn't think so either. I didn't either.
Huh?
I didn't either. Not at all. I made the comment when I came on at halftime. I said, you know, it's 28-13. It was 28-10, and you would have thought, okay, Clemson's down 28-10 in the second quarter. Must be the quarterback's fault. The quarterback must be, you know, 10 for 22 with 3 picks or something like that. No, he played outstanding. You know, maybe Trevor Lawrence would have played a little bit better, but with 30-some starts under his belt versus this being DJ's second start, that was exceptional. Or his first start, I should say.
Right.
Exceptional.
And I saw Liberty a video asking, do you think Clemson should be worried about Notre Dame? The only reason why I'm going to say no, I've seen Boston College play a lot this year, and I knew they had a good quarterback, and I know this guy, he transferred from Notre Dame, but the receiver was pretty good, and their tight end is a beast too. Long, I think is his name. So I really didn't think that it would be that much trouble compared to Notre Dame. I don't know if Notre Dame had those type of receivers that Boston College had. They should have played very well, but I haven't seen it. And everybody's been talking about how Ian Book has been struggling to throw the ball, especially against that played Louisville. I think Clemson going up against a running team will be more playing into their hands. That they can play those good defensive tackles and defensive ends they got, and those linebackers. So I can't wait to see the game next week.
Yeah, I would expect Clemson's going to be a 10 or 12 point favorite. Ian Book went 18 for 26 for $199 today with a touchdown and no picks. Notre Dame ran for 227 on the ground at about 5.2 yards per carry. This Kyron Williams for Notre Dame, he's a pretty physical runner.
Right. I think also when people are saying that the wind is really bad up there, and that's what he's struggling with to throw the ball. And at least against Louisville, they were saying how heavy the wind was. So I can't wait to see the game. I mean, it's going to be interesting, but I think Clemson's going to take them a little bit more serious than they had the last. And hopefully some of the guys who's been injured get better soon before we can. And hopefully, I didn't even know. I knew about number 47. So I can't pronounce his name right now, but I didn't even know that Mike Jones and Tyler Davis were going to miss today's game. I was like, dang.
You talking about Skalski?
Huh?
Are you talking about Skalski?
Yeah, James Jackson, number 47. I knew he was going to miss it because he had surgery. But I didn't know that the other two were going to miss the game. Tyler Davis and
So are those guys going to be back? Do we know?
hopefully. I don't know. They haven't heard it. They don't got COVID. Not Mike Jones, but I know Tyler Davis hurt himself in the Wake Forest game. And out of the Wake Forest game, he came back for the Miami game, and then he didn't play in the next 2 games. So he had been dealing with a leg injury. And if you look at his freshman stats, they were better than Wilson's and Lawrence stats were their freshman years. I know Wilson wasn't a full-time starter, but if you look at him compared to Lawrence, Tyler Davis' numbers were better than Lawrence was. And they played with a 3.35 last year. So, he's a pretty good defensive tackle. I think he's one of the best in the country.
So for everybody who lives down south, that I've been listening to for this entire offseason that was making comments about, Clemson's got to go to Notre Dame in November, and it's going to be snowing and sleeting and freezing, and this is going to be this big disadvantage, including Pigskin Pete. And at one point I said, Pigskin, you realize, yes, we could have bad weather in the north the first week of November, but most likely it's going to be just fine. It's going to be like 55 degrees. Here's the forecast, DeAndre, for South Bend, Indiana on Saturday. 68 and mostly sunny. Does that sound like an issue?
No.
It's going to be 70 degrees and sunny.
Right.
So
people forget, Clemson, we got the Boston College, 2
Sure.
years ago.
Sure.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of these players is on that team. So what I'm worried about receivers, man, for Clemson. I know everybody saying, well, Rogers is doing good, but Najee and Langston, Frank Langston, came highly recruited, and they were saying that it was on the level of Sammy Watkins his freshman year, and you haven't really seen that develop yet out of those two. And Kevin Jackson is really good, but he made boneheaded plays at crazy times. I just sometimes be like, yo, dude, you can't let that to be one of the top left tackles to come out of college just coming up here, and you're you know, you don't play like it. So I'm kind of worried about him sometimes, but I haven't watched a lot of Notre Dame football, but you know, it's going to be interesting. I know Notre Dame has a lot of talent. So I can't wait to see the game. And yeah, Ohio State, I said it earlier, Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson are the three best teams by far. And I think Alabama and Ohio State are winning too. It's hard for them to admit that, but Clemson's just not playing well. Maybe they're bored. I remember Terry Bradshaw saying, you don't have to be great when you got to be great. So maybe that's what it's about. So,
Maybe.
So let's hope and see what happens.
Well,
we'll see what happens.
they've had one of these games every year against a marginal team.
Right. Hey, this time you can say, hey, injuries, whatever. I don't know. It's just, you know, we'll see how they come out, because they play. Who did they play before, man? I can't remember, but Virginia, and they absolutely looked terrible. And then they came out and blew out Miami, and we all were shocked. They're like, you know how big the blowout was. Even I was joking around with Miami fans, telling them that Clemson was going to win by 20, but I got to see Ian Book do a little bit better. So it's going to be interesting what Venables can come up with. Because for Clemson to shut that team down, the whole second half was just amazing. I didn't think they were going to come back and win, to be honest with you, when they got down 28-10. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But, Mark, you have a great night, man.
Thanks for the call, DeAndre. Appreciate that. Have a great weekend. All right. Let's run through the top 25, and I'll let you know what I think. Of course, my top 25 that actually makes sense is coming out sometime in the morning. Whether I decide to stay up late night tonight, which I always stay up late night tonight. What am I talking about? All right, BYU leads Western Kentucky 35-3. So BYU is going to have a date with Boise State coming up. That should be mighty interesting. That's going to be their only resistance, I would think, toward an undefeated season and maybe a spot in the New Year's Day Bowl. That's going to be up to the bowl selection committees, considering Cincinnati will probably make their way through undefeated. And then you get BYU. So somebody's going to get left out of that mix. So Clemson, BC, I watched that game, most of that game, 34-28, and it was not, as I mentioned to DeAndre, if you would have told somebody that Clemson was down by 18 points in the second quarter, they would have said, well, Uiagalelei is not playing well. He must have thrown 2 or 3 interceptions. No, he played great. Clemson did miss 3 starters on defense, Skowski, Jones, and Davis. Maybe 2 of them come back next week against Notre Dame. The ground game did not work against BC. Travis Etienne had a horrible first half trying to run the ball, 11 carries, 29 yards, but he got things working in the second half. And much like the college football playoff game against Ohio State, when they couldn't get him going in the run game, in the traditional run game, they used him as a receiver. And 7 catches for 140 yards. And as a side note, Travis Etienne became the all-time leading rusher, passing Ted Brown in the history of ACC football. So congratulations to him. Alabama beat Mississippi State 41-0. My goodness. I knew it could be that, but I still took Mississippi State in 31 just because I hate those kind of games. You don't know what's going to be going on in the fourth quarter when it's completely out of hand and it means nothing and it's complete garbage time. Mississippi State threw for 163. They ran for 37 yards. Typical Mike Leach. He threw it 46 times and he ran it 15. And his team got shut out. They got shut out against Alabama, got shut out against Kentucky. They scored 14 points against Arkansas. Who else have they played? They won the big game against LSU to start the season when everybody's eyes were popping. Wow, they threw for 600 yards. Doesn't that seem like it was about 18 years ago? KJ Costello threw for 623. Mississippi State put 44 in the defending national champions in Death Valley. Bam, Mike Leach in the SEC. And we're all questioning, Mike Leach in the SEC, look at what he's doing. He just set a record in his first game. Since then, awful. So this is Mississippi State's offense since that LSU game. Shut out against Kentucky despite throwing 70 passes. Shut out in this game against Alabama despite throwing 48 passes. Scored 7 points against Texas A&M on offense. The other was a pick six. 7 points. And they scored 2 touchdowns against Arkansas. That was their best game. 2 touchdowns against Arkansas. Awful. And Kylan Hill, their best player on offense, has opted out. And I can understand why. So Alabama rolls. Want to let everyone know that we do a call-in show late Sunday night here at midnight. We also do one at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on SG1 Sports. SG1 College Football, look it up. We'll be there live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Ohio State beat Penn State 38-25. I gave you my thoughts on that. I don't think Ohio State's broken in any way. I think they're doing just fine. Not that they don't have room for improvement. They do, but they ran the ball effectively. The pass protection, the wide receivers, and that quarterback are as good as anybody. I do think Alabama's wide receivers are a little bit more explosive and overall better, but we're splitting hairs. The defense is fine, except the secondary. The secondary, that's my one criticism of Ohio State tonight. Major criticism. Secondary lost against not a good passing team. A capable passing team, but not really a good passing team. And Cruz, I will get to the thoughts on A&M because we talked some A&M football this week with a contributor from TexAgs. That was a great conversation. So check out that video because I think it still applies even after the Arkansas game here. She had a ton of great insight. So check out that video. But we'll talk some Texas A&M because I think they've got a backdoor possibility to get to the playoff. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Hello? Hello? All right. So Buckeyes win 38-25. Notre Dame over Georgia Tech, 31-13. I did not see more than a couple plays of that game. I know Georgia Tech only scored because there was some kind of botched play on offense for Notre Dame. So basically, Georgia Tech got shut out in a fashion in reality in regards to they scored a play on defense that was just botched by Notre Dame. And then the last touchdown was a garbage time in the last few seconds of the game. Notre Dame took care of business 31-13. Sets up the big matchup in South Bend, of course, that we will be all over this week. We will talk it up like nobody's business this week. Notre Dame, Clemson. So be locked in for that. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's NBA time.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Yeah, so I just wanted to give my thoughts to the game, and I had a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
So my opinion of the game was, a lot of what you said was true in terms of a lot of people are overestimating the problem that OSU has, and they kind of don't want to give credit to teams who are perennial powers just because they have as good as Ohio State, and we have to acknowledge that sometimes yards are going to be chicken up and everything like that. And one of my main problems with OSU this year was just based off of the hype and everything that our interior was getting. So that's our straight A gaps, right? So that would be Wyatt, Josh Myers, Harry Miller.
Yep.
All of them are 5-stars. All of them were projected to be first-round picks. So I understand our limitations at running back in terms of how good they are relative to what we've had at Ohio State. But at the same time, I feel like we're not in the push requisite of the hype they had coming into the season. What's your overall opinion on that?
Well, I know against Nebraska they didn't get the push. They had those 4 short yardage situations where they couldn't get a half a yard for a first down. And that all came from the interior that you're talking about, the 2 guards in the center. So that's troubling. But it's one game, so I want to see that play out. Now, tonight, everything that comes to mind in the run game was, I think J.K. Dobbins turned 5-yard runs into 12-yard runs, and sometimes he turned them into 60-yard runs. I just don't think that they have that back. I think they have a very deep stable of running backs. I think they're 3 to 4 deep with capable runners, but I don't think they have J.K. Dobbins. So I think they got plenty of push. I bet if we charted every running play tonight, I bet 3/4 of them, they got a reasonable push or crease or hole for the back to gain reasonable yardage.
Yeah, you're right. But, I mean, another thing is, at this point in the season, and I know it's early, but I'd say the tackles have been more impressive than the interior, so the center, not the center, than the 2 guards.
Okay.
Because, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree, but I mean, if we're talking the second best offensive lineman in the country, that should be like, I don't see that. I don't see that from White. But I mean, I guess we'll just, you know what I'm saying? I just had super high expectations for him. But my second question, right? It's about the wide receivers and the steps that they're running right now, and how that could be construed or thought of as irresponsible, considering how they're recruiting and how you're supposed to see all these guys happen. So, like, if we're going to be running 2 tight end sets, 2 wide receiver sets,
yeah,
right? And those tight end sets aren't playing to a better push on the ball relative to what we want. And then we're force feeding 2 receivers. And then on top of that, Garrett is returning to, you see what I'm saying? How are we supposed to keep all these wide receivers happy if this is what we're doing?
Well, we're starting. I'm having trouble hearing you for one thing, but so I'm not really catching your point.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I can, but it fades in and out. So I'm really not getting your point. Something about the why I am not getting your point at all.
All right, can you hear me better now?
Sure. Fire.
Okay. So basically my thing was Ohio State is recruiting like very, very well at the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
At the moment, we're recruiting like 3 or 4 top 100 receivers a year.
Sure.
And if they're not going to be utilized in special teams, and we're only going to run 2 wide receiver sets, and we're not even going to change the wide receivers for stamina purposes, how do you think that that's like a successful formula to keep the wide receivers that we have? And it seems like it's like a stark variance from what the receivers were shown and told when they were recruited to Ohio State.
All right. Well, it seems as though Urban Meyer set a pattern where he was recruiting a high-graded wide receiver. and they were utilizing a lot of guys. He wanted to use, I think it was up to 6 guys in the rotation, is what they were typically looking for. And it appeared as though Ryan Day was in that same mode. But if he's not seeing in practice the ability, take all the components of playing well at wide receiver, the route running, the blocking ability, the catching, all of it. That if he's not seeing that, then he's just going to play the guys that he's comfortable with. He may want to play 6 guys, but he may only be comfortable with the 2 or 3. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that could be true too. Yeah, you might be right about that. So,
he was playing more wide receivers last year.
Right, and they were all like upperclassmen, and that's probably the situation. And then they didn't have like regular preseason, so that's that might be true. I didn't think about that, but my second, I think this will be my last one. It's like a lot of the criticisms of the Urban Meyer regime at Ohio State was him being pretty inflexible when it came to making the changes needed to, push himself over the edge in terms of being like a championship contender. So, in terms of hires, that manifested in, what is his name? I think it was like, he was the linebackers coach. He works for Arizona now. He's like his best friend. I think his name's Billy. You know what I'm talking about? Billy Davis.
Billy Davis, the linebackers coach?
Yeah. So Billy Davis wasn't recruiting well, and then the linebackers were a reflection of how, everybody thought he was, which was subpar. And he didn't make the move ever. And then on top of that, in terms of personnel, he never changed, the guys who were in the position, even though everybody else thought that, they had the ability to actually outperform the ones who were starting and playing lackluster. And you can see similar trends with Ryan Day. So my question is, do you think that he'll be pretty inflexible in terms of roster movement and, keep the incumbents in positions without giving young players a chance to show what they can do in games?
Well, I don't know because I don't have a conversation with Ryan Day to know what his thoughts are on all those things. But I can say that I think down through the years that most coaches prove to be pretty conservative by nature, and they go with what they know and they go with what they're comfortable with. And most coaches are comfortable with experience. And so if Ryan Day believes that, let's put it this way, every elite team is not elite in every positional unit. That's just not feasible. It's not reasonable. Now, you can't have a position unit that's so weak that it's the 12th best in the Big Ten. But I would think Ohio State in every positional unit's in the top 3 to 4 in the Big Ten. And if linebackers since pretty much Raekwon McMillan left in 2017 on, it's been probably the weakest position on the team. But it hasn't been bad. Now, in 2017, for most of that season, in 2018, it was bad for much of that season. I thought that they were improved dramatically last year, but were they elite? No, they weren't elite. But I also think we have to understand that there is so much more asked of these linebackers playing against these spread offenses and covering tight ends and backs out of the backfield than 10 years ago. And so they still have to be pretty physical players, but they have to cover so much more space now than they used to that they are going to give up plays.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's one of the problems with Texas is he seems like athletically limited. But so my last question was, it would be about there seems to be this transition from right guard to center that OSU's been doing for like the past 5-6 years, right? And if you look at the trends, you had like Billy Price to Jacoby Bourne, or Jacoby Bourne to Billy Price, and Billy Price to Pat Efline, and Malcolm Christian, Michael Jordan. But the thing is, like when you look at how those players perform in the NFL, none of them really have long-lasting careers. And in theory, what they're trying to say is it gives you more versatility on the interior of the offensive line, but that hasn't really produced any tangible benefit. So my question would be, do you think that they're doing their interior linemen a disservice by switching them around in the offensive line in their careers at Ohio State?
Well, I think that while a place like Ohio State and in other schools, certainly for a recruiting tool, want to sell themselves as being a stepping stone to the NFL, because that's what players at that level are searching for, and even unrealistically, many of them are. They want to hear that they have that kind of ability and believe that they can move on to that level. So that's a main recruiting tool. But once those players get on campus, as long as a place like Ohio State is developing them as players, I don't think they have an obligation to them to mold them in the best way possible for them to be NFL prospects and to play well at the NFL level. They're trying to win games at their level.
Yeah.
I don't think they have any obligation to anybody.
Yeah, and that's true.
If
that's what I was thinking. It's kind of like when you think about it from a macrocosmic long-term situation, it's like a disservice to all of the people who play those two positions. And that's my whole thing about it. It's kind of misleading, honestly. But yeah. And my last question is about what's your take on Jeff Happy's impact at OSU and how much credit he actually deserves for what happened last year for the Ohio State defense?
That's a great call. Well, I would think that he would deserve considerable credit, considering that they were so bad for most of 2018. Now, they did improve the last 3 games of 2018. They were much better, but they were still far from elite. And, of course, that was a Schiano/Grinch defense versus a Schiano/Hafley defense. So,
Madison.
Or after Schiano left, Greg Madison and Hafley. So, yeah, I would think that he would be given credit for their improved play. Yep.
Yeah, so my whole thing was, I think a lot of people, I think it's kind of overstated, because a lot of the guys that he had that were on the roster were blue chip 5-stars. So they already had experience and everything. And then Ryan Day was already adamant about the defense he wanted ran, which was, press man cover 1. And Jordan Fuller is like an academic All-American. He was always seen as a security blanket before Hafley got there. And then I don't even know if we can really credit Hafley for the development of upperclassmen when he had been there for 6 months. And then when we actually looked at times when underclassmen were actually played, so he had more of an impact on their development, they were lackluster in the moment that they were showcasing needed to produce. What's your thoughts on that?
Run that last part by me again. I'm sorry.
So, what did you not hear?
The last part of that.
Yeah, so I think the thing you can hear was I said, so basically, I think that it'd be more fair to credit him for the development of underclassmen based off the fact that they were earlier into their tenure, they had less experience, and they were, a lot more of what they were doing and everything like that was under his tutelage. Bigger percentage of what they learned was under his tutelage compared to like Sean Wade and Jeff Okuda and Jordan Poole and everything like that. And when they were in prime time moments, they were lackluster. So, I mean, the people who we can fairly attribute their development to him were lackluster. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? He's getting all this credit.
Okay. All right. I'm guessing that the live chat is probably a bit bored on the inner workings of the Ohio State defense for the last 20 minutes. But we appreciate all the points on that. And we obviously are here to cover Ohio State football on a regular basis, and hope you join our live shows. I'm going to take some other calls. Thank you so much. All right. You guys know me. I will grind down the football conversation to a T, but I think we were getting a little bit deep in the inner workings of the Ohio State defense over the last 5 years, considering this is not an Ohio State show. All right. So I was running down the top 25, not just the top 25, but all the games from Saturday and my impressions of what's going on. And we got another call coming in because I was going to give some love, as requested, to the Cincinnati Bearcats, although I've not seen them play this year. I usually catch them a few times a year, but I just haven't had that opportunity. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Hello?
Hey, Mark. It's Chris Trevor.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing just fine. What's up?
So, I just have a few comments. One, Justin Fields is definitely the best quarterback. He's better than Trevor Lawrence. I watched that whole game, and I watched him, and there's just no question who's better at this point, I think, especially when you talk about the competition level.
But between Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields?
Yeah.
Okay. And who would that be? Because I don't think everyone's so convinced on that as you are.
Well, all you got to do is look at who he plays, right? You know, Clemson hasn't, outside of Miami, Clemson hasn't played anyone defensively that scares anyone, whereas you've watched them go up against a potentially decent Nebraska team and a solid Penn State team.
Okay.
So,
But are we forgetting that Trevor Lawrence has 30-some games under his belt the last 2 seasons against Alabama, LSU, and others?
yes. But excluding the Alabama game, because I think that Alabama game was much more about the wide receivers than it was his ability. When you go back to the Ohio State game, that was him running with his feet that really did the job at Trevor Etienne. And then you go to the LSU game, and you saw floating balls and a lot of misses. And when you watch even the Ohio State game where they played Clemson, who played better for the better part of the game, Fields or Trevor Lawrence?
Well, I got to admit that I certainly, following the 2018 season, was just as high or nearly as high on Trevor Lawrence as everybody else was. And then as I watched last season play out, of course, he got off to a bit of a rocky start, and he made some bad throws and threw some picks early, and then he cleaned it up and played relatively well down the stretch. He didn't have a great national championship game. And as you mentioned, I think the receivers let him down more than anything else against Ohio State. But there was a point in last season in which I started to think, okay, is Justin Fields as good or better than this guy? And I certainly want to see Justin Fields be able to play out this season with, I want to see him play fully healthy. I want to see the knee healthy, and hopefully he's able to stay clean from a health perspective so we can see him in a college football playoff against these teams at full health. He was compromised at the end last year. So I think Justin Fields throws a cleaner pass than Trevor Lawrence does.
Yeah, so, and then I think Ohio State's O-line is fine. I was watching the game, and it seemed like the running backs were hitting at least 2 to 3 yards before there was even any contact outside of maybe blitzing plays. So, just like you said, J.K. Dobbins is special, and I don't think that they have that in their backfield. I thought Trey Sermon might be able to provide that based on how he performed previously at Oklahoma. But I was watching him run it, and I don't think he's got it. Not to that level. So, I heard you mention earlier about Kyler Hill. I thought that was hilarious because I remember the first game of the season and how they were trying to talk up Mike Leach's offense and Kyler Hill coming back and how that was going to be better for him to get to the league. And now you just see it all falling apart. And I think, as of right now, that was the most logical outside of Michael Parsons and Penny Sewell. Because I think Mike Leach at that school right now is a square peg in a round hole. And maybe in 2 years, you'll see something completely different. But right now, I mean, 2 shutouts, and you're talking almost 100 passing attempts, over 100 passing attempts.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. They've been shut out twice. In the A&M game, they scored a meaningless touchdown at the end, and the other touchdown was a pick six. So they might as well have been shut out in that game, too, because they didn't score any touchdowns that meant anything.
Right. And so you're talking about no offensive touchdowns practically almost all season outside of the first game.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think Clemson's definitely the best team right now. One, because Julian Galloway played his butt off, but also Trevor, even though they struggle to run the ball, and that's going to potentially hurt them, I mean, ETN is still, making himself felt in the passing game, and they had no answer. Even when you were talking about eye discipline for the linebackers, he just ran like that. It wasn't even close.
Okay. Anything else you got on the game or anything else?
I got a few things. I think it definitely plays to this type of level and can get more consistency from their offense. They're the top 16. And I would put Notre Dame up there with them as well. Mainly, and I think honestly Notre Dame to this point is better than Georgia because of how well they play defense. And even though Georgia has a better defense, I think Notre Dame's offense makes up for the difference.
Okay. All right. I appreciate the call.
I'll do that one last thing.
Thanks so much. Well, we've got another call coming in. I appreciate it. Okay. Hopefully these people will listen to when I make a comment to them on the phone. So please listen when you're on the phone. You've been on forever, and I got other calls coming in. So just listen to what I have to say. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's George.
George, we're going to limit people to one call per night. Thanks, George.
No.
Yes, we're going one call per night. I've been sitting here for 2 hours. One call per night. Thanks, George. My word. Okay. We got 180 people on the line. I think we almost got to 200, or we're at 161, 157. Yeah, so we'll stay with one call per person per night. And if you're really itchy and you got to call me a second time, it better be really good. Because I would hope some different people would call. Don't want to hear from the same people all the time, and would like to hear from some different fan bases. All right. Very good. Very good. Very good. And so, you know, if you've been on the phone forever and I'm getting other calls, I want to get to the other calls. All right. I think my patience has been well documented. Not that I love taking the phone calls and having long conversations if they're good conversations, but I don't know of anybody else that sits on the phone with people for 20 or 25 minutes. But if it's good and nobody else is calling in, great. But if other people are calling in, then I'm going to take those calls, and we're going to stay with one call per person per night. All right, where was I? Somebody wanted some love for Cincinnati. I haven't seen Cincinnati play. Obviously, they're playing well. They just beat Memphis by 39 points, and Memphis can play. They're not as good as they were the last 2 years, but they can play. So I am surprised by that score, and they crushed SMU. So they look to clearly be yeah, I need a screener, Theo. Thank you. Especially when some folks, everybody's fine tonight. You know, you guys know what happens sometimes. I need a lot. I need a salesperson. That's what I need more than anything. Anybody want to be a salesperson that can actually sell? That's what I need. If I need anything, I need a salesperson. But Cincinnati throttling SMU, so there seems to be one more big test, although let's all understand that the upsets aren't typically happening where we expect them to be, so it's always some oddball game. But considering that Cincinnati has Houston, East Carolina, UCF, that was the game I was looking for. UCF is capable, of course. Temple on the road. Tulsa's capable. So still a few other hurdles for Cincinnati to clear, but they've beaten Army's usually tough. The Tulsa game got moved, and then the last 2 weeks against SMU and Memphis. So standing at 5-0, so they still have 5 games to play. So 5 down, 5 to go for Cincinnati to get to a New Year's 6. I do not believe they're going to make the college football playoff unless there are 2 lost conference champions out there. A 1-loss conference champion out of the major conferences will get selected before Cincinnati. Should they? That's up for debate. David sold cars years ago. Dennis is asking me to trash Notre Dame. Kind of tough to trash an undefeated football team. Do you want me to trash them like all time? That's kind of tough to do too, since they have the 2nd or 3rd best winning percentage in the history of college football. I can certainly trash them in the last 30 years because they haven't really accomplished anything because they don't play in a conference. And I think national championships are overrated. But I'm a conference championship guy because that's a tangible championship. But Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference. So what do they accomplish every year? They win 10 games and they don't do anything else. So that's me cutting on Notre Dame. How's that? They played like garbage most of the year up until last week. Their win today was a reasonable win that you would expect them. Georgia Tech didn't really threaten them. It wasn't as close as the final score would indicate, 31-13. They blasted Pitt last week with a backup quarterback, Joey Yellen instead of Kenny Pickett. So that was impressive. South Florida, everybody's killing South Florida, so that wasn't impressive, but they struggled against Louisville and Duke. And thought there was somebody else they struggled against. Duke is awful, and Notre Dame had a 1-score lead in the 4th quarter. They beat Louisville 12-7. Florida State, that was a fairly convincing win, but Florida State is getting crushed by everyone except North Carolina. Sorry, Luke. Is that me trashing Notre Dame? There you go. They are one of the 10 or 12 best teams in the country. And I will have to see something different to make me think otherwise. Swampy McGee, what would Michigan really want to hire? Every team except Vandy is good in the SEC. Yeah. I don't know that Mississippi State's really a good football team. But yes, the SEC has more good football teams. I always like to define our statements. Good. What does good mean? The SEC has more quality football teams than anybody else. Yes, they do. Yes, George, that's exactly what I said. I hear Mark saying is nobody else except for me is allowed to call in more than once a night. Did I get that right? Precisely. All right. People are getting riled up now. Okay, curveball. Your media, you can talk Miami's AD into firing Manny Diaz and hiring Luke Fickle, I believe his name is Luke Fickle, will owe you. Please pay half up front. Curveball, I'll take half up front. I thought that you wanted Mario Cristobal. I thought that was the big push for Miami fans. VT, SEC teams are overrated. They all lose to each other and cycle each other out. So, VT, you understand that every conference loses to each other. You understand that if you add up the records of every conference, it's the same exact record. All the teams in every conference lose to each other. Mr. Twin, College Football Committee better not place Cincinnati in the college football playoffs. That will be a murder, most likely, yes. Consider that Cincinnati was arguably the best Group of 5 team last year. They were in the top 3 with Boise State and Memphis. They lost to Ohio State by 6 touchdowns. I know that's only one game, but still, Cincinnati doesn't quite belong in a college football playoff. Ethan, yes, sorry, thought that was a legitimate comment. Do I believe that a lot of people will decommit from Michigan when Jim Harbaugh inevitably gets fired? He's not going to get fired at the end of this year. He's going to get 2021. He signed through 2021. I don't think that they want to pay him a buyout. Don't think they want to deal with that. I am not a Texas A&M fan. I could care less, but I do want them to win out. I want to see chaos. I want to see difficult decisions have to be made for the college football playoff. And one would be Texas A&M being 9-1 as the second seed in the SEC after Bama. Let's say Bama blows out Georgia in the championship game. So Georgia's completely eliminated, out of consideration. And you've got A&M as the second seed in the SEC at 9-1. And let's say they really look convincing beating LSU and Auburn. So Texas A&M right now is 6-0 or 5-1, probably 5-1. So I'm sure that they've got Ole Miss left, Auburn, LSU, and somebody else I'm missing. Okay, they're giving me soccer scores. All right, I'm not going to get into that. We're going to look at, we'll give next week's schedule a quick glance here. And I want to remind everyone that I'm going to be back here tomorrow night at midnight Eastern time to take your calls. We'll talk some more college football. And also, tomorrow night, come support me at 6 p.m. Eastern time on SG1 College Football. Because I get on there and I've got a bunch of people in the live chat that I've never seen before, which is great. I love that. But I would love to see some familiar faces, really familiar names and handles. Come on over to SG1 College Football, 6 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. The NFL games will be boring by then. It's going to be the 4 o'clock window. There'll hardly be any playing. Let me see if there's anybody here in the live chat that I've not seen before. I don't know about Adam's Apple. I am going to give you a welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Would like to know who you root for and how long you've been watching Adam's Apple. Ethan, you as well, Texas A&M fan. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. How long you've been watching? I find it fascinating to know some people say, I've been watching for 3 years, and I'll be like, really? I haven't seen your name before. And they say, well, I never comment. Sue Malucci loves the Buckeyes, so I will say, welcome to Mark Rogers TV, Sue. How long have you been watching? Would love to know. Auburn Tigers Nation, maybe I've seen you before, so it wouldn't hurt, though, to say, welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You're an Auburn fan, obviously. Would like to know how long you've been watching. I am surprised by the 35-3 win. I am much surprised. I thought that game was going to be very close. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I saw the pick 6 early. I know it wasn't a pick 6. He ran it down to the 1, Pritchett. But I DVR'd the game as I DVR like 22 games every Saturday. I will maybe get to it. I'm not going to watch the entire game, 42-3 or 35-3, but I want to see how Auburn laid it on them. Can't I get 3 things Buckeyes need to work on? Okay, Aaron, here you go. Beyond anything else, man-to-man and zone coverage, both. That's number 1. Our last caller was telling us interior run blocking. I guess I would say that against Nebraska, not necessarily tonight. That's all I got for you. I got 2. Maybe make some field goals. They missed 2 field goals tonight. There you go. There's your 3. Zone and man-to-man coverage, interior blocking, guard, center, and number 3 would be field goal kicking. Missed 2 kicks tonight. Who else is in this chat that I've never seen before? Anybody else? Andrew Mueller. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Would like to know who you root for, how long you've been watching. Mark for Heisman, please and thank you. I will tell you this. I was never impressed with the Desmond Howard highlight from 1991 against Ohio State, where he runs the punt return back for the touchdown. It was a great run, but he gets to the end zone, and he didn't strike it and hold it. He, like, stumbles. And it's not that impressive, and everybody uses that as their, well, he told everybody right there, I'm winning the Heisman. Bleach Orange. Mark, you know who I pull for. Etienne for Heisman. Travis Etienne of 84 yards rushing today for the Heisman. Guess he did catch 7 for 140. I just don't see it. I think it's a Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence. Maybe Kyle Trask can get back into it. I guess he had a big game today. He probably did, so his stats are probably still glossy. He came in at 14 TDs and 1 pick. Panama Jack. I don't know that I've ever seen your, with 21,000 subscribers now, it's great. It's a good thing to a certain extent that maybe that I would see some and just forget. So please forgive me if I somehow bypassed you or I've recognized you in the past and forgot. So I think you're new, but Panama Jack, welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Cincinnati should be in there as the 4th team if they go undefeated and Notre Dame loses. What if, okay, Cincinnati's undefeated, Panama Jack. Cincinnati goes undefeated. Clemson goes undefeated. Alabama, Ohio State, and Oregon all go undefeated. Should Cincinnati still be in the playoff? We've got a Giga Maggie. So this reminds me of a live shot that I did. So I was a broadcaster for 9 years before I went off into production operations management at ESPN. Some of you know that for 19 years. And then I quit my job a couple weeks ago. So I'm here all the time and need to make money. So that reminds me that Giga Maggie is that I was unaware of the whole Giga Maggie thing. This is, I was just a lad. This was about 22 years ago. And I was at Texas A&M for the NCAA baseball tournament. And Mississippi State was there. I was covering Mississippi State. This was prior to Texas A&M being in the SEC. They were in the Big 12 at the time. And I was at the NCAA tournament at College Station. And I picked up on the Giga Maggie thing. And so I gave him a Giga Maggie. And I had the big foam thumb and gave him a Giga Maggie, whoo, whoo. I think that's how it went. I think. John says Auburn's back. A lot of go Auburns today. People fired up about Auburn beating LSU. Can anyone from the Pac-12 make it in? They probably have to go undefeated. Seattle Flexer. Seattle Flexer, probably a Ducks fan. Don't know that I've seen you in the live chat before either. So, welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Good to see you there. Always like to know how long people have been watching. Join us on Patreon. It's 15 cents a day. It's $5 a month. You get some extra content, bonus content, my predictions. They haven't been good for the last 2 weeks, so don't use them to go bet on, or maybe you will because I have won money for a long time, but they haven't been good for the last 2 weeks, so that's a full disclaimer. But overall, close to 60% is typically my goal. But we do bring on the experts in betting. Steve Merrill from Pro Sports Info gives betting advice, gives a lock of the week. I would like to check out his lock for this week. I don't remember what it was. I should check that out. I think he took Coastal Carolina to blow away Georgia State and crush the spread, and they did. They were up like 51-0. So anyway, my predictions, betting advice, Steve Merrill from Pro Sports Info's lock of the week, and an insider look that I think people on Patreon can vouch for that they enjoy. And then we've got exclusive live streams there per request. And we also have watch parties. We had a watch party on Friday night during the Minnesota-Maryland game. All of that on Patreon for just 15 cents per day. So I'm letting everybody know that. Just go to Patreon, search Mark Rogers TV. And it's another platform that we need to build out. It's a must. If anybody out there would like me to do a particular team-specific live stream, for some of you that are newer, you don't know that we do Ohio State, Florida State, Miami, and now Nebraska team-specific live streams each and every week. I will add another one if you give me a sponsor. So Nebraska was added because somebody actually stepped up to the plate and said, Mark, please do a Nebraska live. And I said, well, and they said, I will get you a sponsor. And they delivered and got me a sponsor. And I said, I'll do a Nebraska show. You got me a sponsor because this has to be revenue generated. Before it was just extra money and I was trying to ramp up to build and take the big leap and do this. But now I've gotten to a point where I had to make a decision, had to leave my former employer because I was caught in a situation in which I had to make a call and the gun was to my head. So I made the call that I made. Sometimes you just have to take a chance in life. You have to take a risk in life. So that's what I've done. All right. Anything else in the live chat? That must be the end of the Texas A&M schedule. South Carolina, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Auburn, LSU. So they could lose to any of those teams. They should beat them all, but they could lose to any of them. Joseph is not impressed with A&M. Dennis Lopez, greatest of all time. In what discipline would that be, Dennis? Does he do something that we don't know about? Is it maybe some type of craftsman or an electrician or a woodsman or something? Maybe Manny Diaz has some kind of sideline in which he is the greatest of all time. Please fill us in. You got to finish the sentence, please. Manny Diaz is the greatest of all time in what? Something apparently Manny Diaz is expert in that we are unaware of. So that would be great to find that out. That said, Mr. Twin, Jim Harbaugh is outperforming the two previous coaches at Michigan. I agree with you. He's being paid too much money. He's top three money. Top three money should mean championship contention. But he's going to get another year. Getting even. How about those Buckeyes? Nice win tonight. Pretty much what I expected. I said 38-24. Oh, it was 38-25. Hey. Yes, I'm sorry, ACC fans. Please don't say that teams like Texas A&M would come into the ACC and struggle, because they would not. George is giving me status as third runner-up for the Heisman, and Kyle Pitts for second runner-up. Where is Kyle Trask wins? Where's my man Kyle Pickett when I need him? He's always touting me as a presidential candidate. Now for 2024. He gave up on 2020. He used to put up 2020. Joseph. It's tough to impress Joseph, apparently. Not impressed with Texas A&M's double-digit win against Arkansas, nor the double-digit win by Ohio State against Penn State. Michael is saying Big Ten teams would come into the ACC and have no trouble, generally. Getting even, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I do my best, try to keep up with the sport as best I can. And we have a good time on here talking college football. We grind it down. We are here. So some of you have only been watching for a few days or a few weeks or a couple months, but believe me, like, we talk like this in May. We talk college football like this and drive it home and do rankings and ratings and analysis and all sorts of stuff all the time. All the time. So I believe what I'm going to deliver within the next couple of days, in addition to my top 25 that actually makes sense, I think we need to look at each conference race. So I'm going to cut a video on each conference race, where it stands, how it projects, what the big games coming up are. How many TVs do I have? I only have one, actually, right here. I've got one up in the bedroom, but I've got one here, and I've got other laptops that I use, so I look at about 3 games at the same time. Going to do my stock market watch. Maybe a Heisman list, but nobody watched it last week, a couple hundred, so I can't waste my time doing that, if only a few hundred. So nobody was too interested in my Heisman list. And then we get into the off season, folks, and then I'm going to blast away at all sorts of ratings, rankings, and top 10 lists and historical looks. People request me to review college football seasons from the past and let you know who should have won the national championship or who was ripped off or whatever the case might be. All right, we've been going strong for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I appreciate everybody jumping online. Once again, you can contribute here at Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Thank you so much for that. Please like the video on your way out. If you've got 3 minutes to kill, just go through a bunch of videos and just like them. And subscribe. Please subscribe. That way you hit the bell for the notifications. You know when we go live, when you subscribe. And again, I'm throwing way too much at you for you to remember, but the Amazon link is important. Please grab Amazon, the link that we have in the description section of any of the videos. Go to any video, see the Amazon link in the description section. You'll see Amazon in bold letters, caps, and the link. Grab that link, put it somewhere where you will be able to access it when you shop on Amazon. Just use that link. It's the same exact shopping experience that you have all the time, but just this way, they send me about 4 cents. Hopefully more than that. It depends on the product. It's a guessing game how much I get, but that would help out tremendously, as this is my source of income. This is it. All right, everyone, I appreciate it. We will see you back here tomorrow night at midnight. Look out for the top 25 that actually makes sense. And of course, 6 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow on SD1 College Football. Would love to see some familiar handles over there on SD1 College Football, 6 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Have a great weekend. I'll go work on the top 25 that actually makes sense. See you soon. Thank you, NBA fan. I will do my best to give you mod status. I've got to find the drop down. Thanks, dog named Brutus. Appreciate it.